96.7 WBDK, Rick Jensen here with you on a Wednesday morning, and we have Joel Kitchens in studio with us this morning. Joel is the Republican candidate for a 1st District seat in the State Assembly. Ran out on top ahead of several other candidates, ran out on top of the pack in the primary. So good morning, Joel. Welcome.
Good morning, Rick. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here this morning. Yet you get your Kitchens for Assembly shirt on and all ready to go. So I guess let's ask you a couple questions, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
What are a couple of different? You've known Joe Majeski for a long time,
right?
What are a couple of differences between the two of you?
Well, like you said, I've known Joe a long time, and I respect Joe. So rather than say anything negative about Joe, I think I'll just focus on what I bring to the office a little bit. I think the first thing I bring is life experience. You know, I've raised a family. I started my own business, which I think that really changes your view of government and economics. You know, in my job, I travel as a large animal veterinarian, I travel from Washington Island down to Kiwanee County. I deal with people rich and poor, city and country. So I feel like I really know our district. The other thing I think I bring is leadership. I've been the president of the Sturgeon Bay School Board for 13 years. You know, when I came on as the president, our district was in really dire straits financially, and we were losing a lot of students through open enrollment. And we've turned it around, and I think I've shown that I can work with both sides, and that I can bring them together and work towards a common goal.
All right, great. Speaking of your experience with schools, what do you think needs to be changed about the way we fund schools in Wisconsin, if anything?
Well, I think it does need to be overhauled. You know, basically in 1992, the state took over the funding of schools. They said they would pay 2/3, but then, of course, there were a ton of strings attached to that. And I think it was kind of arrogant of them to think that they could come up with a formula in 1992 that was going to forever be fair to all the districts in the state. You know, there are big districts, small districts, rich districts, poor districts, growing, declining. And it's virtually impossible to come up with a formula that's going to be fair. So I think we do need to revamp that and make it more fair. Wisconsin has a long tradition of very, very fine schools, and we need to make sure that continues. That's a
Joel, how do we balance the needs of farmers and their livestock with the need for clean well water?
Well, as you know, I'm a large animal veterinarian, so I've worked with the dairy industry for 31 years now. So I understand farming. I've been endorsed by the Farm Bureau Association and by Dairy Business Association, but I don't think this is an area where it needs to be an either-or thing. I think clean water is an absolute necessity, and we're going to have clean water. All of our people deserve that. So, you know, right now, as you know, Lincoln Township in Kiwanee County is probably the hottest spot for that, where the wells are, you know, terribly contaminated right now. And we're pushing for more funding down there, and I think the state needs to be involved in that. It goes beyond the scope of local government to deal with that. People think they know what the sources are of that contamination, but I don't think that we do entirely, and I think we need to follow that source. Wherever it goes, we're going to stop it. There are lots of things that can be done, and it's you know, we can fix that wherever it goes. Like I said, that's a necessity. It's not an either-or thing.
Have you had a chance to determine what might be 2 or 3 of your top issues if you're elected?
Well, I think, you know, job creation and a strong economy is always going to be the first thing. You know, so many of our other problems, whether they be financial or social, sort of take care of themselves if people have good paying, stable jobs. So that's always going to be number one. And I think the state is moving in the right direction, in spite of what Mary Burke might tell you. You know, if you go over to the industrial park and talk to the people over there, they're growing, and they need employees. So I want to continue Governor Walker's policies in that area of making us a business-friendly state. My second priority, I guess, would be education. I think we do need to work on that funding. We need to ensure that we have great schools in Wisconsin. And then third, I think we'd go back to your last question with the environment. You know, everybody deserves to have clean well water, like we said, and a clean environment. And especially in this area where we're so dependent on tourism, we need to be very, very careful of that. So I think that would be another top priority.
Joel, who would you say has had the most impact on your political views?
Well, like every good Republican, I guess I would say Ronald Reagan. I kind of came of age when he was in office. He was the first person I ever voted for. You know, it's just his philosophy of smaller government, that government governs closest, that governs closest, government governs best, that governs closest to home. You know, I truly believe that. But even more than his political views, I think he influenced me as a leader. So many of our presidents have, you know, you hear anecdotes that they woke up each morning and looked at the polls, and that's how they sort of determined the position they would take. Reagan knew his position. He had such integrity and such principles, and then he would shape the public opinion. You know, he was a true leader, not a politician. So he's been my biggest influence.
Interesting, interesting. I know a lot of people who would say the same thing. What else should people know about Joel Kitchens?
Well, as far as my life story, I grew up as the son of an FBI agent. We moved every 2 or 3 years growing up, so I never really had a hometown. So this is the only one that I've ever had, and I love it here. I'm committed to this area. My wife, Sherry, she's a small animal veterinarian. She owns Peninsula Veterinary Service, works on dogs and cats, and I own Door County Veterinary Associate with a partner, Veterinary Associates, and I work on farm animals, cattle and horses. So we did that 30 years ago when we came here, and we have 3 children. My oldest daughter, Rebecca, is an attorney. My second daughter, Caroline, she works at American Enterprise Institute, which is a think tank in Washington, D.C. And then my youngest graduated from high school last year and is in college now. So that's my history in a nutshell. I've been on the Sturgeon Bay School Board for 15 years. The last 13 as president. I've been active in my church and other coaching and that type of thing in the community. So that's my story.
All right. Well, thank you very much for stopping by this morning.
Again.
We appreciate it. Joel Kitchens, the Republican candidate for 1st District seat in the State Assembly.